Yes. When you walked in, I was at.
All right, we're live on YouTube and we are recording.
All right, great. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, whatever we are now.
Let's do an audio check. Steve, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
I thought you were frozen for a second.
No, I just had to click all the things, the recording in progress and all that. Yeah. So glad to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Well, for the sake of formalities, we'll formally call this meeting of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council of the Grand County to order at 12:04 on September 3rd.
204.
What's that?
204. You said 12.
Oh, sorry. Well, 2:04. Man. We got some new faces today. I'm excited for that. Thank you. Why don't we do just a roll call around and introduce ourselves. I'm Evan Clapper. I serve on the Grand County Commission and I'm the, I think
You're the chair.
I'm the chair. There we go.
I'm Quinn Hall in the Grand County Administrator's Office.
Scott Finlayson, Moab City PD.
Christine Rogers, Managing Public Defender for Grand County.
Emily Barfield, Chief Clerk for Justice Court.
Danica Clayco, AD.
Sheriff Wiggins, Grand County.
Eddie Schmantz, Deputy Attorney for the Grand County Attorney's Office.
And Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Steve Hunter with the Association of Counties.
Great. So first up on our agenda, citizens be heard. Seeing none. We can move on to presentations. I don't think we had a presentation for today. We did have minutes from the last board or the last meeting that was forwarded.
So wait, without bylaws, can we pass the meetings from the minutes from last one? Do we need to wait till we have bylaws and we formalize it?
I guess we can't take action without
Until we have
bylaws.
bylaws.
Okay. So, that brings us to new business. Discussion of bylaws. We had an example from Kane County. Did people take a look over it? Was there anything that was glaring in terms of didn't like it, liked it? I think the idea was to just kind of, if they looked good to folks, to go through and search and replace Kane and swap it to Grand. Unless there was other players that were missing from the bylaws or anything. We don't have a draft of that,
Not yet.
correct, we do it,
No.
okay.
Before we formally open the meeting, we were suggesting that perhaps the Attorney's Office can take that on.
Yeah, we'll take a look at them and then if anything else other than the name change needs to be done, we can do it.
Great. Thanks for taking that on.
Yeah.
So should we wait till we have those to make a motion maybe, to adopt them?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so we'll postpone the minutes from October 11th. We'll look to the attorney's office to provide those bylaws. And then that gets into mapping of the criminal justice assets. Steve, do you mind giving a quick 2-second thing of for people whose this is our first meeting, what the mapping idea tends to look like?
Yeah, I think we've seen a few of the councils almost complete the mapping. They're not totally done, but what we've seen is kind of a variety. But it's just been going in and figuring out what resources are available from the nonprofit organizations that provide rehab services or reentry services, or even poverty navigation programs and parole services, the private probation providers, all that stuff. We've just seen it just listed out and almost like a booklet for the folks on the council to review, where you can sort of clue into, oh my gosh, we have this center in our area that does XYZ, and I didn't know that these private probation providers provided this resource. And so it's just a combination of all those things in a list that can be referred to then as you build out your strategy. Like, because once you look at the list, once you look at the map of the resources, then you can say, okay, there's a gap here. We have adequate services here that we didn't recognize that we do have. And then you can just start to build, Grand County's plan going forward on what you want to focus on, whether that's pre-trial services or reentry, so anything like that. You can start to really get a clear picture of what is needed. Because I think for most people, you go into this process, first of all, like, what the hell is a coordinating council? Why are we doing this? Once you get past that, then it's okay, what do we want to work on? And I think having a resource map actually can help you pinpoint in a much more efficient way. This is what we need to focus on because we lack this, or we want to bolster this that isn't quite dialed in where we need it to and serving the people that we need it to.
Yeah,
does
that's great.
okay.
Yeah, I think for us, one of the cruxes is gonna be some of the bigger counties had, staff that they could kind of dedicate to this. They had college interns or something that were,
Yep.
stepping up and putting a lot of this together. And for us, I think in terms of use of time for this body, it's probably something that's a lot of the heavy lifting is gonna happen outside of these meetings. So that whoever is actually putting the pen to paper for the mapping, can really get down like what they do. We can all
Sorry,
say
no.
who they are, but then when it turns into like what all the services that the different bodies are offering, it'll probably take a little more time.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, like, if there is, Andy on our staff, she's down with COVID this week, unfortunately, but she is our full-time admin at UAC that can really help. She's got experience now in putting together some of these maps. And so if you want to use her to connect with folks at the county level at Grand and connect her with someone to start communicating with, to start building out that mapping, she can totally do that. I can help her too. So that's a resource that's available to you guys if you need it.
I did talk to Stephen Stocks and he suggested that Chrissy could work on this as well. So he's definitely aware of this.
Yeah.
Great.
And so it sounds like if she's willing and able to take that on, do we want to start kind of naming some of those players today, or do you think that list is already pretty strong with the invite to the council?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of, if looking through the invite to who's attending these, if we don't see any big gaps there, I think the next step would be kind of each representative provide to her kind of what resources they offer. And so I don't know, I think, the police and sheriff are gonna have a pretty big and so maybe that's kind of when we could loop Andy in or something and say, what's really makes sense to include in this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the processes that was pretty intensive that I know Uinta did was they had their admin person go and spend time with each of the agencies they felt had their own resources. So she would go in and interview, the head of AP&P for the area, or of the sheriff's office, or the behavioral health center, and would say, okay, what are your resources? Can we list all those out? Who do those resources connect to? I mean, that was a pretty intensive process that I think took a couple 3 months for them. I don't know that intensiveness is required to build out an exhaustive resource map, but that's an option that's available that we can help with too. If that's something you think would be helpful.
Yeah, and just with that timeline, UAC is asking us to turn it into them first to kind of review it before going to the legislators. And you're hoping to have those mid-November?
Yeah, mid-November, and I would say November 20th is a good marker.
Yeah, and this will probably be an annual process moving forward.
Yeah, yes, until I think the state gets a really good understanding of what each county needs. I think that, you know, I would plan on at least a couple of years of this process existing. Because ultimately, my understanding from Tom Ross at CCJJ is these counties are going to be fully autonomous functioning areas of the state that are fully connected to CCJJ, and CCJJ's ability to go and start advocating, okay, we're gonna expect a budget item of, you know, $14 million to allocate toward JRI services in each of individual county. Like they'll eventually get there. You know, the more specific we can get in grand about what we want and the funds that we need, then CCJJ will just compile all that and go to the legislature with, okay, you know, we're going to need X amount of funding to fund all these different needs that each of the counties have. That process is where we're headed, I hope.
Yeah, but in terms of, you know, you went to us taking 3 months to do that, and we don't, you know, ideally, we'd like to have this done in November. It's kind of like, it's better to get something together now than to
Yes,
You know,
there's
produce on the lease of the first go round, because we're gonna do it all over.
it doesn't need to be exhaustive at all. It can just be even a start of it, I think is sufficient.
Yeah, and I think another takeaway that came up in that chair meeting was that if there's resources that are shared with like other counties, if there's things that we're doing with San Juan or Carbon, to go ahead and list those out too, because those might be attractive for funding requests in the future too. If it's like,
Yes,
hey, we're
absolutely.
So if it's something that we're utilizing, even if we're not necessarily the sole providers, let's go ahead and include those. What else about mapping today?
I just think we wanted to get that assigned, and I like I said, I did talk to Steve about it. So,
Yeah, I shot him an email. So I think that interview process probably makes a lot of sense. She can track folks down and say, what are we? Great, and so Steve, once we have the mapping done, that's kind of the first step, and then we get into drafting a plan. And the plan is more kind of like focused on the future.
Yes. Yeah, I would say just focus on 2024. So that plan should just illustrate what the goals and objectives are for Grand County's criminal justice system in 2024.
So I guess if there's things lacking when we're doing the mapping exercise, you know, that's the time to kind of like start being like, oh, let's put that in the plan column or the wish list column, because it's ultimately, I mean, it's about the services, but it's also about funding too. And we're not going to be able to go after funding if it's not identified in the plan. And so that's kind of not the ultimate goal, but one of the takeaways from the process. I'm not super familiar with the whole, all the assets and the whole process. Is there glaring priorities that we want to start kind of bubbling up to the surface, so that if there's something that is high on somebody's wish list, you know, we can kind of see how to target that from everyone's different angles? We didn't really have a lot of specifics on the agenda, so.
no, we wanted to talk about the board membership discussion. We still have one vacancy. We want to move on. Go ahead.
Yeah,
So yeah, we still have one vacancy, an optional member, an individual representing local government, human services, et cetera, or an individual with lived experiences in the criminal justice system. We still have that vacancy that we do need to fill. So anyone that has suggestions or ideas about someone in the community, it would be best to fill that role, and that would be a voting member. we do need to fill. And then there's also non-voting members that anyone's allowed, obviously, to attend the meetings.
And we were talking about having applications go out. We didn't receive any
No,
completed ones that we had in there.
I think a good one would be, the administrator of the hospital. I think that might be a viable. So I'm not sure other thoughts are on that, but
Sure. Definitely a big community member.
I think that hits all those boxes at least once for them.
I think last time we had talked to you about trying to find folks that had kind of, what do you say, lived the
yeah, lived experience.
lived experience.
An individual with lived experiences in the criminal justice system.
Um. Yeah, I think there would be value in having some. I don't know. It sounded like there might have been some other individuals that had kind of popped up, but I don't know if they,
I'll put it back on the website and make sure that I get the word out. I'll email everybody posting and then anybody can forward it on to whomever they please. Whoever they think would be appropriate. Member priorities? I guess that circles back to the mapping of the criminal justice system. Do we have any priorities we want to address? Immediately? Okay. Chris, any comments?
I do think that the gaps that were identified are a really good starting list. But I agree, we need to do the mapping and get the bylaws done.
I think bylaws are probably the most important to get done right now.
what about use of our time now that we all took the effort to get together today and is there things that we can kind of check off even if we don't have those bylaws adopted? It's just 7 pages, huh?
Yeah.
Do you want to fire it up and we could just read through them and tweak them as we go and adopt them and say we did something today?
I would say we should wait for Steven.
Okay.
I would prefer their office go through it.
Yeah.
With the final.
Once they're finalized, depending on how they're worded, it might be difficult to amend them.
Okay.
I prefer if Jared or Lex are here to make some of those decisions regarding those bylaws, because they're gonna impact them, so.
Right.
And so we're doing it monthly before, but if we're trying to get this done by November, should we wait and see how the mapping is coming together? Or do you think we should try to meet more regularly, or I guess I'm not until we get to like a tabletop exercise sort of thing. I don't really know if there's much that we're doing all together there. Steve, have you seen this played out within I know you attend a lot of these.
Yeah, I think just my thought is, why don't we just, I don't know who you want me to coordinate with or who but let's get some document in place that this body can look at. And then based on that, get another meeting of everybody together. I don't, like you said, I don't know. Until you have something to look at and approve and give comments on, I'm not sure, just what the best way forward for an entire group meeting is. So, even if you wanted to select a couple of people to work on a draft of a resource map or something and a strategic plan, that's kind of how we've seen it is, a coordinating council will select, 2 or 3 individuals from the council to coordinate with us or with the admin and get that framework together so that everybody in this council has eyes on it, and then they can say, oh, well, how come you didn't include this? Or I think we ought to exclude that,
Yeah,
So until we have that for you guys to look at, so maybe let's just, take the next 2 weeks and put together whatever we can put together and then send out a new meeting invite for everybody.
great. That works for me. Does that seem like?
Because I think,
reasonable?
I think if we can kind of set October 1 as a deadline for us to have just at least the scaffolding or the skeleton of a strategic plan and a resource mapping document. If we can get those things done by October 1st, then I think we'll be in pretty good shape. And I'm pretty confident we can help get that done.
By October 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, so from October through November would just be refining that, or is there a third piece?
Yeah,
that
just populating it and refining it and making sure that everybody, in this meeting feels comfortable with the direction that has been articulated in those documents and ready to go for the end of November. I think that would just be, probably, we'll have a meeting 1st of October and then probably one a couple weeks after that, and then one after that to finalize everything. I think that would be sufficient.
Great.
Just based on what I've seen come together. And, some of these meetings are like this, right? Where it's like, okay, well, we got to get our strategic plan done, but how do we talk about that without any kind of, it's that happens a lot. Like this conversation you guys are having is pretty common. So I would say, let's just get some stuff on paper and let the momentum of that take us where we got to go.
Awesome. Thanks for telling us we're doing okay. I need that sometimes.
I need it all the time. I'm what they call
Uh,
anxious attacks.
All right, so maybe tentatively in 2 weeks is Thursdays afternoon seem to be like a decent time. So maybe the 27th, we could pencil something in. And if you haven't provided your mapping and resource sort of stuff, if you haven't been asked for it, maybe reach out before then and try to and then we can get stuff on paper. I think that's really, like Steve's saying, that having a little momentum there will kind of go, and the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. I mean, it's gotta
Is that realistic review for?
Yeah, so
Bylaws?
Stephen won't be here for the next meeting because they're going to some conference, but I don't see why he won't be in. Well, the bylaws right now, it doesn't seem like there's gonna be too much change.
Okay.
If you guys need them, but I just, this is my first meeting, so I don't know if Stephen wants something specific in there or not.
Yeah, no,
I think if I remember right, Steven just wanted some type of template to work off of, if I remember. from our
Yeah.
last.
yeah, we had the King County one.
Yeah.
And it's,
So it should be easy then.
Yeah.
I don't see why it would take long on that.
And then I'll work with Stephen and try and get somebody going on the mapping.
Okay, great.
yeah, I mean, I don't, and it sounds like Andy might be
For sure.
a good resource, and she definitely is a good resource, so. If we're stalling out. Anything else while we're all together? Well, thanks for taking the time to be here. I know it doesn't feel like we're doing a lot, but we're getting the ball moving. And I think it will help improve the system overall. So thanks for taking time out of the day to be here, and we'll keep things chugging and get to the heavy lifting pretty soon. Anything
Appreciate
else?
everyone. I look forward to hearing from you too.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
All right, we'll adjourn this meeting at 2:28.
Hey, Eddie, do we want to send those docs to bylaws over to you, or do you want to send them to Steven?
Send to both of us, just in case he wants me to work on them. That'd be great.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Evan, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think we ever met
Yeah.
up over there.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Frederick.
If you send them the